What's up, everybody? I'm INKGA10 Player 1.
And I'm going to be ranking all the Pixar movies, TV shows, and specials I could find. I won't be including short films, as that will be a video of its own. Planes will be on this list because it's canon to the Cars universe, even if it was made by a different studio. I won't be putting the Pixar treats, Pixar in real life, or the Pixar documentaries since they're considered one IP. They don't have a story. I will say that Walt Disney Animation Studios is the best animated studios, but the next few I think of is Toei Animation, DreamWorks, and Pixar. Most of my childhood has been revolved around these movies, and of course Walt Disney's. And one of these is not only my favorite Pixar movie of all time, but my favorite movie in the world. There have been a couple of bad apples in this batch, and let me repeat, a couple. Most of these movies are masterpieces or just really good. Modern Pixar, despite its faults, still makes bangers, and I will still follow till they are out of ideas. Also, if things look weird, it's because I have switched from Wondershare to CapCut, so that's why things look off. But now we're gonna test it out, so now let's get into this Pixar ranking video.
Who's the cat? It's always chill when survival odds are close to nil. Frozone, Frozone.
What the hell was that? I know this is supposed to be a parody of Clutch Cargo, but it's still very weird. Maybe it was intended for that, and to mimic some of the 50s cartoons, but without a question, this is no doubt the worst thing in Pixar history to ever be witnessed. But at least it's not infuriating as other things on this list.
Your soul is mine.
This movie is soulless, but I will quickly name what's good about this film. The animation is beautiful as always for Pixar, the music is great, and the Nick's joke is one of the best Pixar jokes of all time. That's it. That's all the good about this film. Imagine an orgy between the animation quality and satisfaction of Toy Story 2 and Ratatouille, the music of Coco and Ratatouille, the dead concept of Coco, and the emotions of Inside Out, and you get this piece of junk. It had great potential to be about a man who loves music, but in between things he gets held up, finds a meaning in life outside of music, which was accomplished in the stupidest ways possible.
It's so good. Sus.
I don't like Joe, 22, I don't like anyone in this film. In fact, I absolutely hate this film. Its orgified plots and ideas are distracting, the characters are unlikable, and it's very boring. I don't want to talk about this stupid film anymore. It sucks. Moving on.
Calling Buzz Lightyear, the galaxy's greatest hero. Skilled, courageous, and ever vigilant. Leaping into action, Buzz Lightyear paddles to the rescue. His ongoing mission to protect the universe from the dark forces of evil. These are the adventures of Buzz Lightyear of Star Command.
It's kinda boring. I love the action-packed TV movie with a plot, but I just couldn't sit through more than 3 episodes of this show. Buzz Lightyear's voice actor Tim Allen is not available, so they brought in Patrick Warburton, who's famous for playing Joe from Family Guy and Kronk from Emperor's New Groove. He tries his best, but he doesn't land close to where Tim's performance is. Mike McCrae does a much better job voicing Buzz Lightyear than him. Just look at the comparison between all 3 voices.
I just want you to know that even though you tried to terminate me, revenge is not an idea we promote on my planet.
You lose, lawbreaker.
Buzz Lightyear?
Yes, the long arm of the law reaches even into a cesspool like this. Let's go, Torque.
Excuse me. You said that you've battled those intruders before. Tell us where and why.
The characters are fun, but they don't really do fun things. Now, I don't hate the cartoon show because it's typical for a Disney cartoon to not have a plot, but nonetheless, it's still very disappointing.
Boy, life ain't easy on the Oregon Trail. I tell you, life ain't easy on the Oregon Trail.
It's not good, but it's not supposed to be aimed at those who seek a good narrative story. It's meant to be aimed at kids. And although it does have some funny things within the different adventures, I don't really have much reason to go back to it. I mean, it's just not that good. But at least it has the decency of being itself and not copying other people's things like Soul or any other thing below with this, but yeah, I think it's fine, but I won't go back to it.
For the love of God! For the love of God! Please! Damn! Damn!
Talk about an insult. An insult to the main reason I love Pixar and all the pop culture. A certain movie is my favorite Pixar movie, and it craps out this movie after Toy Story 3's great ending. It's not that the movie franchises can't still be great after one movie should have ended, like the MCU, but if they made a movie based around another Woody similar to the Black Friday reel and have Woody have a self-reflecting journey to end Toy Story, and even have a happier ending with Andy coming back, it would have been a great end after the other one. But instead, they ride on Incredibles 2's money and makes a piece of trash film. The best thing about this movie is its animation and its funny parts. But that's nothing new for Pixar. They always improve. It's always funny. Woody was the only good character in this film, while everyone else felt out of character or just annoying. And speaking of, the characters in this movie are stuck in a van for most of the movie just to introduce new characters, and the characters suck too, so that drags them down film much further. Forky was a good character, but even he gets little screen time in this film, and acts like a damsel in distress for most of it. That wouldn't have happened if Woody just helped a friend in need. Speaking of, this villain sucks, and that's it. I hate this movie's existence, but it's slightly better than Soul.
Dinosaur. His tail is swift as lightning. Dinosaur.
The good dinosaur is not good. I've made many controversial rankings in this video, but everyone can agree this sucks. But before we go into why it sucks, let's talk about what's good. First off, this movie has balls. Bug decapitation, drug reference, hangover reference, and people just being eaten on screen. Where was that in A Bug's Life? Another thing is, I love its background animation, as it's very advanced. But I think my favorite part is the scene where Arlo and Spot talk using sticks about their families, and I feel if it took inspiration from The Land Before Time, not the sequel part, it would be much better than this piece of trash film. Now the bad parts are, 1, getting rid of all the fun characters. The side characters were very fun, and instead of using the Wizard of Oz gather more friends trope, they abandoned them for the rest of the film. Arlo is such a pussy for most of the film, Spot being treated like a dog instead of a caveman, and of course, there's no such thing as a caveman, it's all a myth. Another stupid thing, Arlo's dad dying to something that both Arlo and Spot survive later in the film is stupid. By the way, it's also very boring and filled with filler. I reluctantly watched this film because I wasn't going to write my opinions without a rewatch, so you're welcome. I'm done talking about this movie. It's terrible. Moving on.
My name is Doug. I have just met you, and I love you. My master made me this collar. He is a good and smart master, and he made me this collar so that I may talk. Squirrel!
This was a funny and cute show. Doug is always something to adore in the Up franchise, and these episodes prove that. I don't actually have much to say because it's simple but not ambitious, but that's okay. It was never meant to be anything beyond that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I yelled. It wasn't your fault that I almost got killed.
Stop.
But now you're leaving and you won't get on the ramp.
Go.
You won't get on the ramp.
I'll go. Just stop.
Cars 3 was a waste of potential. Cars 1 is a masterpiece. Cars 2 is a masterpiece hated to hell, while this movie is mostly okay. I expected a darker movie after seeing that teaser trailer years ago, but instead we got a movie that would work better as a fourth. It should have been Cars 1, Agent Mater, to replace the Cars 2 thing, so everybody would be happy. Cars 2, which would probably be the morning of Doc, right before Agent Mater, and Lightning losing his friends over him doing too much racing. Then Cars 3 would be exactly like this Cars 3, but darker. No Cruz Ramirez, give us something else, and something else that's different. I don't have much to say because I thought in terms of timeline and its comedy it sucks, but at least it's watchable and I liked it at some parts, but not all of it.
Tell everybody I'm on my way.
Will you stop it?
This movie is okay. Its strongest parts are in its comedy, side characters, and villain, but it's the most average Pixar movie out there. Its animation is fine, the main characters are fine, Its story is essentially Brother Bear, which I thought was fine. I wish we got a movie about Mordu and his brothers instead of just a short, because he was by far the most interesting. It's not as bad as people make it out to be, but it ain't a masterpiece either, and it's not something I pop in for fun, but it's a solid movie and I have nothing else to say except Wreck-It Ralph or Paranorman should have won Best Animated Feature. That's it, that's all we're talking about this movie. This is kinda good. Now, the main issue with this movie is the cringe that makes fun of actual teenagers, and although some do act like this, it's very insulting towards what I used to be. It has some very expressive animation, which is impressive, even if they nearly went the hentai route at one scene. I like the idea of the red panda being a form of puberty. Kind of like my manga idea of My Pride and Optimus. It's one of the funnier Pixar movies out there, but there's not too much to talk about, so let's continue.
Calling Buzz Lightyear! The world's greatest toy just got better! New Cybersonic Buzz! Says over 15,000 word combinations. A photon grenade. Hit the deck. Battle Scar Buzz with ultra damage.
Ooh, that'll leave a mark.
Skyrunner Buzz. It really flies.
Wow.
Buzz is light years better than before. Complete your collection today.
There's something to be said for the original.
And that's something as yard sale.
What drugs was I on? I thought this was on par with Cars 2. I was out of my mind. I will say it's an average movie and has some good ideas, but it's not the best. Buzz is more of an idiot than in Toy Story 4. Socks is funny, but everyone else is bland. There's lots of stupid things in this movie, but I will credit its great animation and the plot twist of Zurg being Buzz. I could buy that Lightyear is different from the Buzz Lightyear we know, because I remember that the cartoon adaptations of movies are different and that cartoons usually sell toys, so I could kind of see the differences. This movie is not my favorite, but I'm going to watch the other Buzz Lightyear movie that's out there to see if I like it better than this one.
No, it's the truth. I'm telling you, you gotta help me. Don't leave me here. I'm in hillbilly hell. My IQ's dropping by the second. I'm becoming one of them.
I'll be very brief with this one. It has similar problems that the first one had with recycled elements, and the only thing that stands out is the girl who's basically a creep. I found that kind of funny, and Patrick Warburton's cameo. A good sequel, but it's basically the first film.
Helicopter, helicopter.
This movie was pretty good, but the only huge complaint is how similar it is to Cars 1. Rookie wants to be a champion and is a sentient vehicle. Mentor is old and has a tragic backstory but overcomes their fears to do what they love and help their student. Rival is an absolute jerk who cheats to win and loves the cameras. Both protagonists finally complete the strategy their mentor tried teaching them, and I'm pretty sure these two are the exact same person. I like Dusty since he's a pretty good guy from the start, unlike Lightning McQueen. It's good, and I might find myself revisiting it every once in a while.
Los locos kick your ass. Los locos kick your face. Los locos kick your balls into outer space.
Before, I had not liked this movie as much as I do now. It is still very slow in the first 20 minutes, but its emotion and comedy make this movie pretty good. I find Wally more relatable now more than ever because he and I are both looking for love. Eva is a good love interest for Wally, and it's a badass for sure. And the captain is a really great character because he wants to help Earth after years of doing nothing. And it's very inspiring. Kinda makes me want to do the same thing. Another thing I'll say is that the animation is really great. Even though it's an average movie, it still has the spirit that Pixar used to have, and still feels original. It's a good movie, and I'll probably watch it again later on. I don't have much to say.
Do you like scary movies?
This was a pretty good special. I like how it gives Jessie some character growth and referencing Toy Story 2, and how traumatizing that was to her. I love the commercials they made just for small gags when they didn't really need to, but they did it anyway. I think my favorite scene is the end where a manager tries to escape in a police car, but crashes it and runs away, showing how incompetent he is as a criminal. I'd say it's a pretty good special, but I like this special better.
My guess is no one's ever loved you before.
This was fun. The big problem with this special was the amount of inconsistency with the toy functions. It felt distracting that somehow you can remote control plastic arms. Other than that, it was a fun time. I love how Woody and Buzz were laughing at the unaware toys because of what happened with Buzz in the first movie. I love how Trixie got some major screen time. Reptilius Maximus is a really cool character and toy and reminds me a bit of Small Soldiers. The Gorgonite side, I mean. Also, can someone explain what the hell happened to the angel cat? Did it just vanish like the angel from It's a Wonderful Life? Anyway, I really enjoyed this special and will probably watch it again soon.
Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. Get that thing away from me, you guys. Put that thing back where it came from, or I'll poke myself in the eye. It's a work in progress. It's gonna get better.
It was pretty good. This is definitely the best Pixar TV show, but that's not saying much. I like seeing what happened before the ending of Monsters Inc. and introducing a new character like Tyler Tussman, who is simple but the most normal monster in the Monsters universe. Miffed is kinda fun but annoying at times. I hate Duncan's existence, but I find Cutter to be very funny and underrated. I love the Abominable Snowman's return. I love Mike's comedy classes, they're really funny.
And in these comedy pairings, there's always a straight man, as you can see, and a faggot.
Sully was pretty good too in this, even though John Goodman didn't really sound like he was giving much performance. And I found Gary to be very funny. It's not a masterpiece of a show, but until we get a sequel to Monsters Inc., this will do.
PIXAR accidentally puts ants in Toy Story 2. DreamWorks is going to be pissed when they find out.
So after Toy Story, they needed some time to make a sequel, so they come up with an original idea that came out with a similar idea. These ideas were A Bug's Life from Pixar and Ants from DreamWorks. They had to argue over the names considering the similarities, but Pixar chose A Bug's Life as their name while DreamWorks chose Ants. In my opinion, I liked Ants better. I'm not going to go into details on why Ants is better, but although I really like A Bug's Life, I don't love it. It's an average Pixar movie. It's about bugs, so what'd you expect? I really like the movie's protagonist and villain. Flick is an inventive, honest guy, but things always go wrong for him, and he struggles to make a difference, and his speech against Hopper is so powerful and great. And speaking of Hopper, Hopper is in the wrong movie. General Mandible is basically another brute soldier guy that we've seen in Atlantis and Avatar, while Hopper is a menacing character, and despite that, he's still afraid of mutiny and birds. The plot is straightforward, and the side characters can be fun, but I can never remember the names, but I do adore the roly-polies. The ladybug that is a guy, and I love Manny. It's a good movie, and for Pixar's second movie, it's pretty good for its time, but there are way better movies ahead.
Buzz Lightyear, the world's greatest superhero, now the world's greatest toy! Buzz has it all! Blocking wrist communicator!
Calling Buzz Lightyear!
Karate chop action!
Wow!
Pulsating laser light!
Oh, annihilate!
Multi-phase voice simulator!
Is a secret mission in uncharted space.
And best of all, high-pressure space wings!
To infinity and beyond!
Not a flying toy.
Get your Buzz Lightyear action figure and save a galaxy near you! Buzz Lightyear!
Available at all Al's Toy Bound outlets in the Tri-County area.
This is actually good? Oh my gosh, why did no one tell me? Now we'll point out that it's not a masterpiece, but it's much better than Lightyear. It's very funny, its art style is good, the voice acting and story was really good. I love the cameos from the Toy Story characters trying to watch the movie. And this movie kind of feels dated with the VHS stuff, but I don't care. The diverse characters made this movie very funny. Unfortunately, since it's a TV movie, it was only an hour long, but once I watch the series, I'll be satisfied. It's not the best thing in Pixar, but it's still really good and goes to infinity and beyond.
Hey, kiddo, would you like a balloon?
This movie is pretty good. Its strongest scene is obviously the beginning scene, and if it was a short film, it would be one of my favorites in Pixar, but they managed to make it work into a whole movie. Its characters are very strong. Carl is a grieving character that eventually grows past his grief and decides to help Kevin and Russell. Kevin was fine. They really should have changed the name once we find out it was a girl. Russell was kind of annoying in some cases, but his fatherless backstory is what makes his character more interesting. The villain, Charles Muntz, is probably one of Pixar's best villains, despite him not really being a villain, more of an explorer that wants to prove the world wrong, and it's not like he was going to kill anyone if Carl just helped him. But no doubt the MVP of the movie is Doug. He's cute, adorable, funny, and his inclusion was a really great idea. Its animation is simple compared to others, but it does its job. And even though it's above average, it's still one of Pixar's better movies.
Everyone on this ship is a descendant of an original elemental master.
I have to say, it's pretty good. I expected this to be an average Pixar movie, but it turned out much better than I expected. I like Ember as a character and how relatable she can be, and her name's cool as hell. And a pun. Then we have a nice water guy called Wade. Cool. I like how their opposite emotions come together and make this great love story. I love the animation, as it's visually pleasant and colorful. The plot is formulaic, but that doesn't matter. I'd say it's pretty good, and that's all there is to it. Also, I will be saying something else for the 2023 rank video, but it will be very brief so I don't have to stress myself.
Emotional damage!
Out of all the Pixar films that are good, this is my least watched out of them all. Not because it's bad, far from it. I just didn't have many opportunities to watch it. And rewatching it after so long, it's really good. Even though it's another character arc movie, they do it arguably better than Woody's character arc. This movie is creatively inspiring. They managed to capture our lives in a really great way. Whether it be real life, our dreams, and even our imagination. The focus being on joy and sadness was really done well. Keeping the others at the table to make things worse out of a panic was a great way to keep the tension going. Bing Bong is probably my favorite character in the movie, as he's the most caring character in the movie and his sacrifice will never be forgotten. Riley and her parents were done well, so were the emotions, and this movie's humor was pretty good too. I love the movie's message of how you don't need to be happy all the time, and sometimes you need to be sad. And you need to treat those around you equally. It's a really good movie, and if a sequel does release, I'll be seeing it in theaters. Also, I'm gonna let this song get stuck inside your head.
Triple then come. We'll make you smile. Triple then come. It lasts a while. Triple then come. We'll help you, mister, to punch that breath right in the kisser. Triple then gum.
You shall not pass!
This is really good. I'm genuinely shocked on how much I like this film compared to my first watch. If I had a nickel for every time a Lord of the Rings-like movie was set in modern times, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? I enjoyed the characters in this movie. Ian is okay, but his brother Barley is the best character in the movie. He reminds me of Will Byers from Stranger Things Season 3. I'd say everyone else played their part fine. I love the journey and spells they introduced throughout the movie, and it leads to Ian realizing that he never had a father, but he always had Barley. I'd say the only flaw with this movie is the fact that Ian didn't even get to meet his father after going through so much. I like this movie, but there are still some better things on this list that are much more worth talking about, even though I really like this movie.
She's got legs, you idiot! She traded her vice to the sea witch and got legs. Jeez, man.
Surprisingly great. I had dodged this film in the past because I thought it was going to be a bad or underwhelming movie, but it's a more laid-back movie, and considering this came out after the abomination of Soul, it was a smart move to do something simple, and it paid off. Sure, it follows a Little Mermaid story, but does it better than the remake. I love how simple and clean this movie is. I think Luca is good enough protagonist, Alberto is pretty cool, and basically a less cooler version of me. Wheeler? I think that's how you say it. Is a good character, and even though Mark is essentially Dad from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, he's still cool. I love how funny the villain in this movie is and how much I want to punch him. I don't have too much to say past that because it's a nice movie with a good emotion and okay animation. It's honestly a total upgrade compared to Soul. This is one of the great examples of a great sequel. with the only flaw is Marlin, Nemo, and Dory being split up for a majority of the film, and an altered Marlin and Dory meetup from the first film. This movie really dives deep into Dory's life before finding Nemo, and it's a tragic one that really ties up with Dory's speech before Marlin left her in the first movie. Dory is no doubt the second best character in the film because her memory loss gets annoying after an hour of the runtime. Hank is a really good character who was really helpful towards the plot and is my favorite character. The whales are okay. Marlin and Nemo aren't very helpful in the film, but they are just as great as before. The sea lions were funny, the fish gang coming back was a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Crush being back was cool, the parents were fine, and I loved Dory's character throughout the movie, and how it leads to not only Dory remembering, but Marlin being reminded of the view that him and his wife Cora looked at the beginning of the first film. I don't have anything more to say. It's a great sequel that mimics the first film, while having the focus on Dory. So yeah, it's great.
Could a bigger fish swallow me? I will voluntarily go on a hook.
Okay, this is a really good movie. This movie had some good ideas and made a better fish movie than Shark Tale. It starts off dark real quick and Marlin's wife gets eaten along with all of his children except one who became a little disabled and becomes too overprotective, and due to that his son rejects him, which leads to him being captured by humans. Goodness, I was about to say. This movie gives Marlin some needed character development and one of the best Pixar sidekicks. Dory is great, but it's even better when you watch Finding Dory. Thanks to her, Marlin was able to find his son, and whenever Marlin thinks Nemo is dead and tries leaving, and you can feel Dory's loneliness that she's experienced since she was a child. Nemo didn't need any development at all because he was gonna not go to that boat until he was accused. I'm glad that although there was no villain, there's still a great climax with the whole swim down and keep swimming things that were teased earlier in the film. The fish gang was kind of fun, but the real treasure of the film were the sharks, sea turtles, mine seagulls, and the crabs. The crabs were the only in the movie for 5 minutes. I love everything about this film, except for the fact that after Monsters Inc. there are no bloopers during the credits. Now this next entry might surprise you, but don't grab pitchforks just yet, just let me explain my case.
I absolutely love this movie. I know you all hate it, but let me explain. First, let's get out of the way what is wrong with the movie. Less Grand Prix racing, Finn and Holly thinking Mater was a spy, and the fact that this movie was ignored in Cars 3.
Wait, who was that? I put McQueen in there. Give you some real competition.
It would have made more sense if they called it Agent Mater or something and called it a spin-off like Puss in Boots. Those are valid points, but I think the premise of the film makes sense. The franchise is called Cars, not Race Cars. I still like the first one slightly better, but still a great movie. Finn and his theme are great. Holly is whatever. It felt weird how sidelined Lightning McQueen felt, but again, it should have been called a spin-off because giving the film another protagonist will rub people the wrong way. The action was great. The villain wasn't hard to guess, so it's not a great twist, but he serves the plot well. I loved Francesco. He was funny and almost as good of a rival as Chick Hicks. This movie was funny, action-packed, cool, and one of my favorite Pixar movies. But there are 10 that are better. Far my favorite racing movie of all time. This movie is really great to watch, but for some reason people really hate this movie. You can hate the franchise, sure, whatever, but this movie is actually cool, full of heart, and no racing movie can compare. Lightning basically goes through a Woody character arc, turning him from jerk to nice guy. The town of Radiator Springs is really fun, each member has great personality, and my favorite is Mater, but Guido and Luigi are heavy competitors. Doc Hudson's backstory is tragic, and hearing his performance while saying it was great. The town tragedy is sad as well. This movie's emotion, animation, and races is great to watch, and this movie is highly slept on. Also, I noticed that the comedy is actually great, and I laughed hearing jokes I never saw in my last watch. Also, this movie has balls for putting a stoner in the film, along with many sexual references. Big flaw in the movie is the fact that Lightning didn't cross the finish line before going back to help the king. But maybe it was to show character growth or something. At least Chick Hicks got what he deserved. This movie is definitely great and deserves more recognition. I'm not sure if it's underrated or not, but one thing's for sure, it's great. Sure, it has the problem of Mike having a realization that he is not scary, which was really obvious, and the unlikable characters being almost everyone that doesn't support Mike. But other than that, this movie deserves to be ranked this high. This is a great prequel that develops both Sully and Mike to be how they are in Monsters Inc. and in Monsters at Work. I love tournaments or competitions and anything, so this movie was a blast to see during the scare games. But by far the best part of the movie was the record-breaking scare scene. The main characters are obviously great. The Uzma Kappa gang was good enough for the plot, but the weirdest character was College Randall. He was so nice before the scare game, so it sucks seeing him turn into a villain of the next film. This movie was fun, emotional, and a masterpiece, but one is slightly better. As I said before, this movie is better because every character in this is lovable, while Monsters University has a few unlikable characters in it. This movie is definitely one of Pixar's best because it had a similar tint that Toy Story 2 had, and that makes the film look better. But it's real straight and it is in its emotion. Although Monsters University had great emotion, this one was better because instead of an obvious realization, it's about Sully realizing that his job gives the same effect that Boo had when Sully scared her, and he felt really terrible about it. It's emotion we won't get from Pixar movie in a while due to most movies being, well, turning red. The villains were perfect. Randall's a good villain due to him being a cunning and smart and does evil things for his own personal gain. Mr. Waternoose is great because not only is he one of my favorite twist villains, he's also understanding. He's doing these things not for his personal gain, but to keep his family heirloom alive and to help the world keep its power. Sadly, he took an evil route instead of having someone like Sully teach the next generation how to be scarier. In terms of the characters, I like how Sully is the guy doing things right, and how Mike does things so he doesn't get banished and never see Celia again. And in the end, helps his friend despite being ignored throughout the entire movie. Also, I'm gonna say this now, Sully is the most powerful Pixar character to do this. Yeah, I think Kingdom Hearts can. This movie is great enough to make it to the top 10, but not enough to beat this next really great and underrated movie.
My every command. I will obey your every command.
The Incredibles 2 is a great sequel. I'd say the only problem is the fact that it feels like filler, and it's meant to get superheroes back again, but I'd say that's okay. I love the animation upgrade and putting Helen as the main character this time around instead of Bob again. I love all the scenes, characters, and I even found the main villain enjoyable. My favorite scene has to go to the Screenslaver versus Elastigirl, as the animation, music, choreography, it's very cool. Also, not many talk about this, but they completely sexualized Helen when she got hypoxia on that plane and made her look hotter. I don't necessarily have a lot to say about this film because it basically mimics the first film and does its sequel justice.
Buzz! We missed the truck! We're not aiming for the truck!
So out of all the animated projects out there like Snow White, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and Dragon Ball Super Superhero, this is one of the most memorable of them all. This is where Pixar movies started, and for a starting project, it's really great. Now there are better movies, but for its time, it was really good. I like this better than the movie that came out the same year, Pocahontas, which I think is really good too. It could be uncanny at parts, but that's what makes it hilarious and believable, considering they are toys. But it's highly noticeable that this movie is aged. They always have those robotic moving humans in this movie. Specifically Andy's mom that walks like Jack Skellington. And its plot is simple but good. Woody is a good toy, but jealousy makes him kind of a jerk. Much better than that Black Friday reel. And Buzz Lightyear is clueless that he's a toy and not the space hero from either the movie or the cartoons based off the movie. They both learn their faults and move past it to escape Sid's house. My favorite scene in the movie is when they fall with style, making an iconic pose in the movie off. It's great for its time and still holds up today. And thanks to this movie and Luxo Jr., a movie so great exists to put some of my favorite movies to shame. We'll see in a few rank upwards.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight.
Coco is a masterpiece. I enjoyed every single second of the film. Miguel is one of the more charming Pixar protagonists out there, and shows others how to mix music and the dead together, right, soul? I love how driven Miguel is and can understand the burdens of family. I mostly like Hector the most in the film because he's very funny, has a tragic end story. Yeah, I just said that. His relationship with Coco is so sad because even though he loves music, he loves Coco more. Ernesto de la Cruz is one of my favorite Pixar villains out there because although he's not physically strong, he is still a threat because of how much influence he got throughout his career. Although I thought Ernesto was stupid for not writing his own songs, he still is a great villain. And it hurts hard when Miguel finds out about everything after admiring him for his whole life. I think the animation is visually pleasant and not too groundbreaking because it's meant to look less realistic and more animated. The memorable moment with Miguel and Coco made me cry on my first watch. I love this movie a lot, but that's all I have to talk about it. But it's time to talk about one of the best superhero movies of all time, and that is... oh my goodness, it's great. There are very few animated superhero movies that create their own IP instead of relying on other IPs like Spider-Verse and partially Big Hero 6. Brad Bird is a genius. He's made a slightly better Pixar movie and of course the sequel, which we already discussed. His animation is stellar, its emotion is really good, there's so much to talk about. The Parr family has a good amount of character. Mr. Incredible is awesome, is one of those heroes that don't listen to the law and want to help people. The last girl is hot, we know this, and so does Rule 34. Although she misses the glory days, she wants to do what's best for her family. And Dash is the younger child who is very enjoyable. The villain Syndrome is the second greatest villain in Pixar history. He is funny, he has great lines that stick with us, a massive fanboy. My goodness, he's just like me, for real. Also, Syndrome has many adult references, and he openly says,
You married Elastigirl? Oh, and got busy!
What does that stand for?
For... sitter. Yeah, sitter. Originally, I was going to have initials for babysitter, but then I would have been going around wearing a big BS, and you understand why I couldn't go with that.
Whenever Syndrome blows up the plane, Mr. Incredible's side of anger reminds me of Peter with a symbiote. Minus the dancing and shock reality. He had nothing to lose, yet still lets Mirage live. This movie has tons of action and lovable scenes and remains as one of Pixar's best. Although there are two left that are slightly better, and one that doesn't even compare.
Fair is a veritable smorgasbord, orcas board after the gates are shut. Each night when the lights go out, it can be found on the ground all around. That's where a rat can glut.
In many ways, the work of a movie reviewer is easy. We risk very little, yet enjoy a position over those who offer up their work and themselves to our judgment. We thrive on negative criticism, which is fun to write and read. But the bitter truth we critics must face is that in the grand scheme of things, the average piece of junk is probably more meaningful than our criticism designating it so. But there are times when a critic truly risks something, and that is in the discovery and defense of the new. The world is often unkind to new talent, new creation. The new needs friends. One night, I experienced something new, an extraordinary movie from the creator of The Incredibles 1 and 2 and The Iron Giant. To say that both the movie and its maker have challenged my preconceptions about fine writing is a gross understatement. They have rocked me to my core, but I realize only now do I truly understand what the movie meant. Not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere. It is difficult to imagine more humble origins than those of the genius now creating at Pixar, who is, in this critic's opinion, nothing less than the finest director in Pixar. I'll be returning to Pixar soon, hungry for more. In English, this movie is one of the best things to come out of animation, but there are two that are better. Yes, that was my reaction to the end of Toy Story 3. This movie means more to me now than ever before. I'm 18. I've outgrown playing with toys besides Lego. I was born in 2005, and I watched Toy Story 1 and 2 for years before I even knew this existed. I basically grew up with Toy Story just like Andy grew up with his toys. This is a great send-off to the Toy Story franchise that everyone agrees should not have been messed up with a cash grab that is Toy Story 4. I'm fine with sequels to great things as long as they do them right, but this was not it. This movie is sad for a number of reasons. Woody being basically betrayed by his friends after everything and not believing in him, the near-death experience that nearly happened to the toys, the small callbacks to previous films, Andy's mom crying for the fact that he has to go to college and is not her little boy anymore, Don Rickles, the voice of Potato Head, dying after this movie was made, and finally, Andy saying goodbye to all the toys. This movie managed to balance comedy with dramatic moments to create a masterpiece. Spanish Buzz was great and hilarious, Lotso being the best Pixar villain and with a tragic backstory. They somehow managed to make Barbie enjoyable? Impossible, right? If they pulled it off. Another compliment is the way the toys use their abilities to escape Sunnyside. They feel involved into the plot, unlike in Toy Story 4. I feel like after this point for a while, Pixar felt either really great or really average, and now they just plain suck. I love this movie to death, and I will talk about this movie more in a future video. But right now, it's time to talk about the greatest movie of all time. Here comes a movie of great divination. All bowed for the greatest movie of all time, and it is... You are probably shocked. You expected The Incredibles, WALL-E, Ratatouille, Coco, or others on this list, but no. Nothing will ever beat this movie. This is peak entertainment. Awesome Buzz Lightyear intro, the chill-shaded environments, the great story, the great characters old and new, the callbacks. What other movies come close? You have so many great things that can't be said because it's one small part of the video. My only problem with this movie is I can't think of anything at all. Have I found it? Have I found the one and only flawless movie? Had Pixar made something so great that Terminator 2 would be jealous? Did they make me enjoy the Barbie sections of this and the next movie? The humor is here, the emotions are here, the switcheroo between Woody and Buzz's outlooks on life is genius. Ultra Buzz and Zurg is unneeded but enjoyable to watch. Each character used their different techniques to survive and find Woody, which making them more useless to the plot. That's how you make a movie, Toy Story 4, you freaking idiot! Toy Story 3 was close to tying, but that's because it mimicked this one while introducing the newer, greater stuff in terms of ending a trilogy. But it's held back because of Toy Story 4's existence. There's so much to talk about for this movie, but unfortunately this video is already really long, so I'm gonna wait for the day I make a full review of this movie. I'm sad that Pixar has great potential, but Disney is making everything they own terrible. Studios like Illumination, DreamWorks, and frickin' Toei Animation is beating the crap out of Pixar. Thanks to Toy Story's 3D animation, it makes live-action movie makers worried about losing their Oscars. Pixar has more to give, and they're just in a bad time at the moment. And I'm sure they'll bounce back. So what do I think about Pixar? I think despite its latest shortcomings, it's a studio that makes masterpieces. It's the studio that with one film beats all the other films. Now am I worried about Pixar? Nah, it'll be fun while it lasts. I'm proud of Pixar. And besides, when it all ends, I'll have Toy Story 2 to keep me company for infinity and beyond.
You're gonna see it's our destiny. You got a friend in me.